Thanks everyone for joining me on the Realty Debate. Where are the big bucks in real estate? Are they in the big cities, or should you be looking at the upcoming growing Tier 2 cities of India? Today, we'll focus on North India and find out where are businesses and jobs moving, where is infrastructure coming up, and where is the realty market looking ripe for investment. The cities we'll cover: Jaipur, Chandigarh, Mohali, Panipat and Lucknow. The panel today is India's best on the subject matter, so stay tuned to your screens if investing in property gives you that big rush. Pranav Ansal, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Ansal Properties and Infrastructure Limited, is here with me. On my left, we also have Ravi Srivastav, Partner Director, BCG India. Ravi, thanks very much for being with us. Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and Managing Director, South Asia, CB Richard Ellis. Anshuman, pleasure to have you with me. We'll also soon be joined by Sameer Jasuja, CEO and founder of Prop Equity. But meanwhile, from our Mumbai studio, Sanjay Dutt, Executive Managing Director, South Asia, Cushman and Wakefield. Sanjay, pleasure. S. Srinivasan, CEO, Kotak Realty Fund. So all basically ends with us here. I'm going to start, of course, with Pranav. He's got his hands in almost every market. But I think let's start with a more macro discussion, Pranav. What makes you go beyond Tier 1 cities into Tier 2 cities for your projects?
See, everybody looks at Tier 1 as the big gold rush, and I think Tier 1 is definitely the bigger markets. But let's understand what Tier 2 means in India. A city like Jaipur or Lucknow, which we mentioned, all have populations of 4 million plus. In fact, Lucknow and Kanpur, as twin cities, have a population of 14 million, if I'm not mistaken. Now, these are not small cities from any angle, and all of them have enough economic activity. People have all the aspirations as Tier 1 city people have. They want to live in big branded homes, and we have seen with our experience in all the cities that you mentioned, the demand is phenomenal, and the margins are good, and people are ready.
So when you say margins are good, are they better compared to Tier 1 cities, or they're equivalent? Because if you look at the economics of it, land's getting more and more expensive in Tier 1 cities. That's also a reason perhaps that developers such as you are heading for Tier 2 cities. So are the margins here in Tier 1 looking squeezed, and are they looking more attractive there?
See, in Tier 1 the problem is because it's so competitive. Everybody is bidding for the same piece of land. So land, which is the raw material for all of us, gets more expensive. In Tier 2 cities, there are not so many big developers. Of course, big developers are there as well. So it's easier to grab parcels of land, and so the margins, because for us everything depends on what price we buy the land at, because that's the raw material. So like in Lucknow, we acquired about 3,500 acres of land. Today only that land has gone up by 6-7 times. So anybody who comes up now will have to pay that much more for the land price. So those are the margins, and that's the volume I'm talking about. So if you can accumulate big parcels of land at low prices, it always benefits you in the long run.
So for developers, it seems to be a great economic and business rationale. Ravi, I'm going to come to you. He talked about population numbers. Sure, I mean, India, most Tier 2 cities look larger than probably a Chicago in the US in terms of just the population. Doesn't really mean that urbanization, as we really call it, is happening in these cities. Yes, it is to some extent, but there's a lot of road to cover.
Look, I think 2-3 factors you need to think of. Firstly, urbanization is happening. Today about 30-32% of the population is in urban areas. It will go to 40%. What is important to understand is what has been the pattern of urbanization in India. So if you look at India and maybe compare it to China, in India a lot of the urbanization has been around the larger city centers. So if you take the population growth rate in the satellite cities around, let's say, the top 7-8 cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, etc., it has actually been much faster than the growth in population in the Tier 2 cities.
Okay, that's an interesting fact. And why is that?
Not in a huge way. I guess for 2-3 reasons. One, economic activity and infrastructure development has been happening more. So as a retail investor, I would say you need to first figure out what your time horizon is. If you're looking at a very short term, 1-year time horizon, honestly, I don't have a perspective on the best place to go, because the factors that drive it are different. If you have a medium term to a longer term time horizon, then you need to look at 2 things. First, you need to look at the starting price levels. What is the current baseline? Because some markets are already fairly expensive, they have run up and so on. So your starting level is defined by that. Fundamentally, I think you need to look at how is demand and supply going to pan out in these different markets. And what has happened earlier is, I would say, at least in the medium term, my perspective, tier 1 cities probably have an advantage from that perspective, because they are further ahead in terms of current infrastructure development, they have better connectivity, they have better transportation linkages, and hence it is attracting more infrastructure development, more economic activity. So this demand for housing is going to grow. If you take the top 7-8 cities, the population will increase by as much as 25 to 30 million over the next 10 years. You take the next 40 cities after that combined, and the total population growth in those places will be the same. So in terms of density and absolute population growth, the tier 1 cities are going to be larger.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.